Ameer, I feel it's time we should start. We have started on YouTube as well. We should start. So people, welcome. Thank you so much for joining in on a Saturday, 2 p.m. I hope everybody is up and running. And Ameer, I feel it's time we should start. We have started on YouTube.
Uh, cool. So you can hear me, right, Prakash?
Yes, I can.
Cool.
Thank you for joining in. Today we have Ameer Jhan with us from OLX People, and he's going to tell you about open source. And the topic was open source for dummies. And believe me, everybody who starts is a dummy, and we just go to the mastery level till Ameer. So hold on to your seats, and let's start today's webinar. Thank you so much for joining. Ameer, please take forward.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Prakash. Thanks for having me. So, hello everyone. Hope you all are having a great afternoon and staying safe. So, as Prakash said, I'm Ameer. You can find me in Twitter and all social media with the handle Ameer the Hacker. And I work as a software development engineer too at OLX People. So at OLX People, what we do is that we connect all the blue collar workers like delivery boys for Swiggy and Amazon to huge startups and companies like Swiggy and Amazon. So that's what we do in OLX People. So in the day when I work in OLX People, I predominantly work on React and the front end parts where we build websites and mobile apps for our clients. And at night, what I mostly do is that I maintain a React lazy load library, which is open source and it has around 4K stars in GitHub. And I also build other small tools that helps myself and others. And I frequently write in Free Code Camp, Dev.to, and other Medium articles. And I'm a big Marvel fan. And if you are a Marvel fan, great. We are already in the same page. And I love cats. I have a very cute cat in my home. And I love stickers. Unfortunately, we can't meet in person. But if we had met in person, you can see I have a lot of stickers on my laptop. And today we'll be discussing a lot on how you can kickstart your voices journey. And if you have no idea about open source, and if you're looking for like how can I start contributing and how can I add it to my resume, then you're in the right place. We'll be talking really elaborately on that talk. And how was my journey? My journey was also humble as yours. I also started my voices journey very late. I kind of in the fourth year, so it's never late. So we'll talk all those stuff in this talk. So before we start, if you guys have any questions, you can feel free to ping me in the chat, and we also have a Q&A session at the end. So anytime, feel free to shoot your questions in the chat. Let's start. So the first question that few of you might have is that what is OSS or open source software? And it's nothing wrong. We all have unknowns. And what is OSS? So we call OSS as open source software. To understand open source software, we need to first understand why it came into picture, why it actually exists. So for that, let's have a look at an open letter. You know Bill Gates. Obviously, you guys would know Bill Gates. So Bill Gates wrote an open letter to the the hobbyists who use computers very late in the 90s. So he called all the hobbyists who use Windows, pirated Windows copy, as thieves and stealers who take software but not pay for it. And he wants people to pay for it because a lot of people work on it and a lot of hard work goes into it. And people should pay for software also, not just hardware. So that was his point. And then there were few hackers who are like kind of very much pissed off by this letter, and they don't wanted that. They wanted software or code that they can hack into. They wanted to hack into code, make changes, and share those changes. And they don't like kind of rules and walls that Bill Gates is trying to build. So that's where open source software came in. So what open source software is that you build a software, you make it free, you let anyone take the code, make modification, and share it with others. That's the whole point of open source. But at this point, Bill Gates was also right, because if you start building software for free and distribute it for free and give the code for it, then people can easily misuse it and you will not get money for what you did. And there is no justice in just sharing code and people misusing it, right? So we'll also see this problem in the later part of this talk, in which we'll address how we can avoid this. So hope you guys had a clear idea on what is OSS. And the next question that you guys might have is that why should I even care, right? So I'm a student. I have not yet joined any company. Why should I even care about OSS? I can just go with my academics. So why should I care, right? So there are a few good reasons that you should care. So let's take the first reason, that let's imagine a world without open source. Let's say that open source software never came into existence. No one started thinking about it. No one started contributing towards it. There will be no mobile phones. So I hope you guys would have all possessed Android mobile phone. Uh, Android mobile phones run on Linux, which is a kernel, which is open source again. So it is written and distributed for free, and Android uses it. So if Linux never existed, then there are no phones, and you guys would have no phone, no WhatsApp, and things like that. Some might argue that you have a Apple phone, which is iOS. iOS also runs on an open source kernel called Darwin. So iOS also won't exist without open source, and no more web. So without you guys even realizing, most of the websites that you visit, like Facebook.com, Google.com, they all run on open source. A lot of the technologies that they use are open source. They run on Linux servers again, which are open source. So if you remove all those open source tooling and Linux servers, then there is no web. So there is no, most probably there is no Facebook, no LinkedIn, mostly no social media at all. And then I took this to Twitter. So I asked few people, like, in your daily work, how much open source software do you use, right? Like around 64% of the people said they heavily use it. So if you remove all those stuff, like a lot of people would be jobless. And there were just few people telling mildly. Even mildly means that like around 50%. And there were very, very few people who said not very much. And the fun part was like someone came and commented out that like he's confused that people are even saying they are using open source very mildly. That is totally impossible. So even in corporates, even in OLX, we use open source very heavily. We use React Native, lot of technologies. Most of the technologies that we use are open source. And the next big reason is job opportunities. Like some of you might be thinking like, right, Amir, now we are talking. Okay, so job opportunities. If you have good open source contribution, then the chance of you getting a placement in a huge big fish companies like OLX, Google, Microsoft is high. And I'm not joking about this. Like I often get emails saying that I have like people like my GitHub profile. Am I interested in a negotiation for a job? I'm not boasting about myself here, but I'm telling a reality that if you have a good GitHub profile or open source contribution, you're going to be a center of attraction, and you most probably going to get some good job offers. And some of you might think like, I mean, this might happen just for you. What is the chance that it can happen to everyone, right? Actually, I'm not alone. So you guys might have already met one of my friend called Vinith. He works in Postman. So he also got a similar offer for his GitHub profile for his good open source contribution. So it's a legitimate case when you have a good GitHub profile. Not necessarily it should be super awesome. At least a decent GitHub profile. It's gonna definitely land you in a dream job. Trust me. And the next part is that you can have a lot of fun, right? So when we work in companies, we are like bound to set of rules that we should not break things, we should do things in a specific way. But when it comes to open source, you are like kind of totally into a garden. You can do whatever you want. You can break things, you can kind of fix things whatever you like, and you can kind of like do whatever you want in the world. It's like, let's say you have a school in which you can learn whatever you want, and no one is going to tell you to learn chemistry or physics if you don't like it. So that's what open source is. No one is going to compel you to do few things. You can do whatever that fits you. Okay, so that's going to be definitely fun, right? Imagine a school where you can learn whatever you like, right? And finding inspiration. Trust me, when you go into the open source world, you find lot of amazing people, and you can draw a lot of inspiration from them. And you can share your ideas with those inspirational people, and you can even work with those people on those ideas. So a lot of network that I have today, a lot of great people that I get inspired by, I have met them on Twitter, and they're very active on Twitter, and they actually reply to a lot of people when they know that you are a good contributor to open source. So that's a good thing to have, and a ton of learning, right? So to put this right, in my workplace right now, I'm not using anything that I learned in college. That's not a bad thing. College definitely gave me a lot of life experiences and fundamentals that I still use, but a lot of technologies that I use in my workplace were not taught in my college. I got to learn them when I joined gradually. So when you go to open source, you are exposed to the latest and greatest in the technology side. So you can read others' code. You can even read Linux kernel's code if you want to. You can read whatever React or anything that you actually use or that the industry uses. Go on to GitHub and read it. You can even review pull requests or code that anyone has written. That's going to give you a lot of understanding about how the industry works without even stepping into a workplace. And you can contribute, then you can get your code reviewed by great people, which means that you get in a gist of like how people expect code to be written and how code can be of high quality. So those set of learnings you can get from open source. And the biggest part, which I totally love, is that no discrimination. That no one is going to point out that you are 10 years old or 90 years old, whether you are a junior developer or you are kind of a huge architect, right? No one is going to complain you as long as you can write contribute code which is gonna add value. People are gonna always welcome you, and very huge impact. Trust me or not, Linux has taken over the world. Like Microsoft can agree it or not, Linux has taken a huge share of developers and also cloud when compared to Windows. We may not use Linux in our daily desktop computers, but Linux has a huge share in the industry. Most of the things that we work on in our workplace is Linux based. We rarely or almost never use Windows. And few of you guys might know Evan Yu. He was the creator of Vue.js. If you don't know Vue.js, it's kind of a JavaScript framework or something that you write to build websites. And he's kind of a superhero now. If you go into China, there is no one who never knows the Evan Yu. So if you build things that people start to use, you're going to definitely become a hero or a celebrity. Who doesn't like that? So open source contribution can do that. And it can generate revenue. So very often asked question to me is that, can I make money out of open source? And even like everyone say open source is free. Why should I invest my time on it? I'm not going to get any money back. I'm not going to get any revenue out of it. But the thing is, that is actually wrong. And the thing is that if you have a good open source contribution or a project, people are going to sponsor you. Like if you are a contributor to a huge open source project, people are going to sponsor you. Huge companies are sponsor you. The reason behind is that those huge organizations depend on your software. So you're going to definitely earn money on a regular basis. There's a website called Patterns. I'm not sure everyone is aware of it. It's a website where you can collect actually revenue. People can contribute to your revenue on a monthly basis, and everyone you make kind of huge amount of money. Not like kind of a rich guy he is, but he's very decent, humble, and he gets enough to get a decent living. And you can also use Open Collective and GitHub sponsorship. So these two are kind of forums where you can also collect money from people who use your software. So this is how open source kind of generates revenue and keeps itself alive. You don't force anyone to pay you, but when people use your software and they're very happy and they want to sponsor you, they give whatever they can to you. So that's the whole gist of open source. And maybe you can quit your job. Evan Yu quit his job to work full time on Vue. So if you kind of build a project which is kind of heavily used by everyone, you can quit your job and stay home, enjoy your life, and just work on the project that you always love, right? And you can even start your own company. I'm being honest here. So there are already few startups which kind of like went into the open source side, like Hasura, Dgraph, and even Ubuntu. These all are all companies which generate revenue, and they kind of use a premium model. like you can get a free open source project to try out, and it's fully open source and you can use it for free. And when you want support or other few more features, you need to subscribe for a pro version, and that's how they revenue generate revenue. When you start a company which is kind of based on open source, people have a lot of trust in you because your entire code is open. Anyone can read your code, so there's huge amount of trust on you. And this is the part where we start talking about how we can like start contributing to GitHub, right? So before we start this section, do anyone have any questions around things that we have talked earlier? I can take 3 questions now if you guys have. Or you can unmute and talk. Nothing wrong with that. Okay. Am I not able to see the chat? Okay. Probably I will continue. Hope you guys don't have any questions. Okay. Cool. So
Guys, you can ask anything if you want to, because it's not every day that that a developer tells you how to do open source and how to start. Because the moment you start doing it, you'll be facing something. So just ask something before, or something in hand you want to take away. So if Ameer is asking like how to start and how to do it, so please do ask. Ameer, please move ahead. If I'll tell you if there is questions. Okay, there is one. If your company's code is open source, can't your competitors take advantage of it?
yeah, that's a really good question, Akshay. So the point is, in open source, when you actually take an open source code, you can't just take the code and create another company. Okay, there are a lot of restrictions that we can add to our open source code using something called licensing, which we'll talk very details in the upcoming slide. But the idea is that no, people can't just easily misuse our code, which is open source. And the thing is that like we are not going to make everything open source. We are going to have few features or few things for enterprise kind of thing as closed source. So that's one strategy that you can follow. Like Linux kernel and Ubuntu and other companies, they have their entire code open source. How they generate revenue is that they don't care about people copying their code or creating another company from their code. They get revenue by providing support to enterprises. For example, we at OLX, we wanted a huge number of Ubuntu servers. We could have set up ourselves, but we did not have that expertise. So we had help from the Ubuntu organization. They provided some support 24/7, and they charged for it. So that's another way of generating revenue, and we will talk very detailed on this in the upcoming slide. Okay, cool. So if anyone else has a question, just shoot it in the chat. We'll talk about. Okay. Now, how can I start contributing? Okay. So hope you guys all are aware about. There's one more question. Give me a second. Okay, cool. So hope you guys all are aware about GitHub. So if you guys are not aware about GitHub, it is kind of a social platform for developers where you can push your code and people can have a look at your code if it's public, and they can even contribute towards it. That's what GitHub is. And GitHub has a model called repositories. Repository is nothing but your code. So if you go into a repository, for example, this has the code that I wrote for a particular project, and there's a section called issues. The issue section which says like what are the things that are need to be implemented in this project, or bugs or problems that are there in this project. Okay, so this is the source where you can like kind of start contributing. So if you take an issue, you can read what is to be done in the issue, then you can start contributing towards it. Okay. Now the next question is that like how you can find issues that actually fit you, that fit a beginner. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about now. So there are something called good first issue. So good first issue is predominantly targeted toward beginners. who have some knowledge around developing and have no idea about any project, and they want to just get started in open source contribution. Okay, so to get that, what you need to do is that you need to go to github/search, github.com/search. That will open up a search bar for you. It's kind of an advanced search similar to Google. You can click on an advanced search. That's going to bring you a set of form fields. In this, you can choose what language you know. For example, I know JavaScript well, so I can choose JavaScript. If you know any other language that you're comfortable with, choose that language. And then you can see something called with labels in the issues option section. In this, you can choose first group issue or group first issue, whichever suits you. So first issue, then you need to choose the state of the issue as open, because an issue can be open and also closed. For example, if you go to the project that I was showing you, if you go into the issues section, there are closed issues and open issues. Closed issues are issues that are fixed. There is no need for you to work on it. Open issues are issues that are yet to be addressed or we need to contribute towards to. So always keep the state of the issues to be open. Then you can hit search, and this is gonna give you all repositories that you can contribute to. Choose the repository, choose the issue that you want to contribute to, and then start contributing. So this is one way of you can quickly start contributing. And you might guys think like this is gonna be like complicated, not so easy. I can show you guys an example. A few of you might be aware of parser bundler. It's kind of a bundling tool which bundles JavaScript and CSS together for a website. But if you don't know that, there's no issues. So let me choose an issue over here. Let me search my name over here. Okay, so few days ago, when I was a student, when I wanted to start contributing towards open source, I did the same. I took a good first issue, and the idea was console.clear on HTML. As you can understand, like I also had no idea about what it actually means, right? So there was just an issue with this heading, not so clear description. So what I did was I tagged the contributor and asked, what does this mean? How should I start contributing? So the contributor came back and said, like, this is the file you need to change, and this is what we are trying to ask. And I kind of, went through it, and it was pretty easy. And I created a pull request. And you might be surprised, the pull request had just these 3 lines of code, nothing huge. That's what the power of good first issue. Good first issue means you are not going to do huge amount of code changes. It's going to be very simple. And whenever you ask question in the issues, contributors are always going to be happy to, help you guys. And you guys might think, okay, when I contribute, what if my code is wrong? If it's not so like good, are gonna people get mad at me, or people not gonna help me? No. The first thing that you need to do is to avoid that is to put what you have done. Okay, so have a good description about what you have tried to do, what you have done, right? And then if you are not sure about something, call it out. Tell them that I didn't find this to be clear, so I did this. So that's why I did the same. I told that like I was not sure how to do this, so I have used this code. So the contributor came back and he gave a help. He suggested that you can have a look at this part of code, okay, which is very similar. You can refer to. Okay, so I had a refer on that, and then I did more changes and that got merged. Okay, so never feel that people are going to get mad at you if your code is not good enough. That's not the point of open source. Open source is about for beginners and for everyone. So people are gonna always be helpful to get your code merged or get your contribution started. Okay, so that's the good first issue. And then how can I start contributing on a on a professional level? That you can do it to this initiative. One thing that we discussed is GitHub Advanced Search. I'm not sure anyone has heard about Google Summer of Code. Google Summer of Code is kind of an initiative run by Google, in which they will give you an internship on a free open source, company. In that, the contributors or the maintainers of the project will come to you. They will give you a task. They will pay you to do the task, and to get selected, you need to put up a proposal in explaining what you are planning to do, and then you will get all the help from the maintainers to contribute to that open source project. And Hacktoberfest is kind of a very similar initiative. So Hacktoberfest is like happens every October. You need to definitely check it out if you have not done it. Hacktoberfest is where like you need to create 4 pull requests to any repo that you can. So use the search strategy that I suggested. Search through the GitHub, find 4 issues that you can contribute to, create 4 pull requests, then you will get a T-shirt. Actually, having a contribution on Hacktoberfest is a huge point in your resume, and also taking part in Google Summer of Code is also a huge apple in your resume. People actually hire a huge amount of students who have participated in Google Summer of Code and Hacktoberfest. Okay, so there are also other initiatives which supports girls. So Girls Summer of Code is very targeted towards girls. Girls can it's very similar to Google Summer of Code, and it's restricted to girls. And girls, you should definitely check it out. There are a lot of women activists who want girls to also code, right? Don't get me wrong, but the current situation is that there are not enough girls who can code. It's a fundamental fault in our in our culture. Then we need a lot of girls who can code. That's why there is initiatives called Girl Summer of Code and Girl Scripts Summer of Code, which encourages girls to also code. And to be honest, in my entire career, I've seen a lot of great girl coders, and I have a lot of great girlfriends who are friends with a girl uh, who code, and they often contribute and are project admins in Girl Summer of Code and Girl Script Summer of Code. So do check them out. Okay. So the next big question that I often get is that like I'm not a developer. Can I contribute to OS? So to them, I tell the biggest myth is that open source software is not just pushing code. Okay? Please understand that open source contribution is not just for coders. Okay, so anyone can contribute in lot of other ways. You can update documentation. If you are good in vocabulary and you can put things in a nice story way, you can always update documentation. You can fix typos. If you read a lot of documentations of React or other open source software, there's always going to be typos. You can fix those typos by creating a PR, and then you can raise it actually. So if you are using some open source software and you feel there are some bugs, feel free to raise it. That's also counted as an open source contribution. And you can suggest ideas and provide feedback, and you can even plan things. Okay, I have seen people who are full time. They just do planning. They plan meetings. They plan roadmap, and they are core part of open source teams like Vue.js and other huge softwares that are open source. And you might be worried that, okay, will people even call me out since they may not think that it's a huge contribution. But the thing is that you will be equally honored, like people who code. Like if you can see, there's a concept called all contributors, in which people will put up your picture and tell you that like this person has contributed code, this person has created documentation, this person has raised issues, this person does feedback. So that's what all these emojis mean. Okay. And the next part is that free does not imply zero ethics. Open source does not mean you shouldn't care about anything. Freedom doesn't mean that you can abuse it. So the first thing that you should avoid is that don't clone repos and change your names on it. Force them. When you want to copy code from a repo, force it. Don't clone it. By forcing, I mean you need to use this button instead of cloning. By cloning, you are actually kind of copying code and not giving any credit. But when you fork, you are giving credit that this code is taken from a particular project. Okay, there is a question. Let me have a look at it. Okay, when does Girls Summer of Code happen? I'm not sure about the exact month, but it happens very close to Google Summer of Code. Just have a look at their website. They often post updates, and the selection criteria is also very similar to Girls Summer of Code. You need to do a proposal, and they would select you if they like your proposal, right? Cool. Yep. So don't clone repos, stop them, and be polite and kind while raising issues. So I have seen a lot of issues where people just shout at the contributor saying that you should have fixed it, you have not fixed it. Like, are you even doing this? Why are you doing this? I need to ship this. You are an idiot. Don't do all those stuff. Be polite while raising issues, and try to send a PR if you can. So when you are trying to raise an issue, just think in a direction that whether you can fix it already rather than creating an issue, right? So what you can do is that you create an issue, tell them that I can actually create a PR for this and fix it, then create a PR and fix it, right? What's a better way to do open source contribution? And don't abuse fellow collaborators. When the issues where people commented that I will take this up, don't be arrogant and tell that you are not doing it, I'm going to do it. Don't be like abusive. Be, kind of very polite and humble to everyone. Okay, so the next question that you guys might have is that, okay, now I'm clear about I can contribute to open source, how I can build my open source software that can be used by like millions of people, right? My answer to that is then you need to solve your own problem. Cool. So what I mean by this is that sit down today, uh, write down in a piece of parchment like what are the problems that you have today. Let it be in kind of a society front or kind of in the development while doing development, what are the problems you face, or like other problems that you have not, that are not yet solved in the current community. Create a product out of it, right? And share your solution. When you build a solution for a problem that you want to solve, that can solve your own problem, the chances of solving solving other people's problem is huge, right? Like other people might be having the same problem, but they never thought of creating a solution for it. But you already created it, so you can share it, and they can also use it. And the worst case would be like people may never use your solution, but you don't need to do this again when you have the same problem for yourself again, right? At least you have solved the problem for yourself, which there is no need for you to repeat it again for yourself. In the best case, a lot of people will use your software and people will love it. So that's the best case, right? And in my view, the worst case is already created, that you are actually solving a problem for yourself and saving yourself from a topic. So I would like to share a personal experience about like solving my personal problem. So I wanted to learn Deno. So you guys might be aware of about Deno. It came out very recently. It's an alternative to Node.js, right? So this is in the early days where Deno was in development, like kind of maybe a year ago when Deno was in active development. I just wanted to try out Deno, but they were not easy to try out because VS Code didn't have any extension to try it out. So what I thought is that let's create a VS Code extension. At least it would help me to learn Deno, right? Then I actually shared the Deno. Okay, I shared the Deno VS Code on Reddit and also on their channel, on the channel that they had. So people loved it. A lot of people started to use it, right? And it almost now actually I think I'm not sure. Let me check. Mm, it now around has 144 stars, uh, and few people still use it, and they love it, right? So that's the idea. So I had a problem, I solved it, and people loved it, and few people used it. Okay. And there's another personal experience that I like to share. Like I wanted to learn Kubernetes for people who are not aware about Kubernetes. It's kind of a a container orchestration system that we use in production when we deploy things. Okay, that's the whole idea. And I wanted to again learn it, but I didn't find any tool to learn it intuitively. And the tool they already had was not so reactive, so I didn't like it. So I kind of built my own tool around it, and I kind of shared it and read it. So a lot of people liked it. There were like 321, upvotes, and even today, that's the highest number of start repo on my GitHub. And like people from Microsoft, Google still use this project, and they have created issues, they have created contributions. So I had no idea that people would use it. Like I just wanted to solve my own problem and just use it for myself, but people loved it, right? So that's not just it. Like there's no need for you to create a huge open source project right from the ground up. You can also still maintain few projects. That's what I did with React Lazy Load. One day when I was looking for a React Lazy Load solution, I found this repo, and there's an issue that the maintainer wanted someone to maintain this project. So I was actually having an imposter syndrome at that point in time, that like, can I comment on this, whether I would be able to maintain this repo, will they will be accepting my collaboration request? But I packed all my courage and commented out that I want to maintain this project. What should I do? To my surprise, the maintainer was okay. The creator was ready, okay for to hand over the project to me. And till date, I'm actually maintaining the project. It's still on my GitHub, and it's easy project to contribute. So if you guys want to contribute, just have a look at the issues you can contribute to. So whenever you're doing open source contribution, never have the imposter syndrome. Everyone is a beginner. Everyone knows that. So everyone is ready to support every beginner. And once you start contributing to a project, it's going to be easy. So nothing is impossible. Everything is possible. Okay. So this is not to boost myself, but just to tell you that if I can, you guys can also do. Because I was also a beginner just like you guys, and I had no idea what I was up to when I like commented on this, right? And this is the question that someone asked in chat. Like, what if someone stole my idea? Okay, I built the idea, I put it on GitHub, I did my open source contribution. Now it's used by a lot of people. Like, what is the like liability that no one would steal my code, steal my idea, and I might go bankrupt. I might have wasted my time, right? So that's where licensing comes into picture. Okay, so before you start your open source journey, have a good look at what are the licensing that you have, and what is the license that you need to use for your project. Trust me, even today, big organizations keep switching licensing because they didn't think enough or they didn't research enough. So choosing a licensing for your open source project is very critical. So the first license is called MIT license. Okay. So when you add a MIT license to your project, you tell the users of your project that you are not giving any liability, that if they use your project in production, let's say that you built a project and Facebook uses it in production and their production goes down, they can't sue you, they can't question you because you said, I did this for fun. I can't give you any guarantee that this project would work well on production or any environment. Right? And then trademark. You are actually giving them the right to trademark. So if you have MIT on your project, people can use the same name of your project and create a different version of it. So let me give you an example. Let's say I create a project called let's say Deno. Okay, I created a project called Deno, and then someone comes up, pokes my project, makes some modification, releases into the same name as Deno. Now I can't sue the other person because he is using the same name, right? That's what we call the trademark. MIT doesn't protect your trademark, so be careful when you choose MIT. And when you use MIT, it's not gonna give any attribution. So it means that when people use your code, there is no need for them to give you attribution altogether, right? So I could fork your code, make some changes, publish it myself without telling anyone that I took your code. So that's the problem with MIT. And when you give MIT to your project, people can use it for commercial use. By that I mean they can use your project to generate revenue. Like Facebook can use your project, which gives them a huge amount of revenue. You can't avoid that. And sub-licensing. What I mean by sub-licensing is that someone can take your project and add another license on top of it. MIT is kind of very free license that like you tell the user that you can do whatever you want, but the person who is taking your code can add another license which restricts a lot of things that MIT provides. So that's what we call the sub-licensing. So it's little dangerous when you use MIT. So use MIT only for the project that you are sure that you're not going to monetize, or you just want people to use it, or you want it to get famous, but you have no intention to make it a huge company or something like that. Okay, so the next license is Apache. So you guys might be aware that Android is based on Apache license. So what Apache license gives you is that it still doesn't give you the liability, that you don't give the users the liability that this should always work, and it does not give the other person trademark, which by that I mean like people can't take the code of Android and call it also Android. So if they take Android and make some changes, they should call it by a different name. So that's why we see Android always as Android, not as Android from Samsung or Android from things. Android is always from Google. Okay. Yeah, they can still sub-license. They can add another license on top of Apache that restricts it further. And this is a very popular license called GPL license or General Public License. And General Public License actually gives the user a liability. By that I mean you are giving the user an idea that this is good to use in production, and it still doesn't give you the trademark protection. They can call this, create a same project with the same name. And attribution, yep, they must give you attribution when they use your code, and they can use for commercial use. And this is the most important part of GPL license. They can't sub-licenses. By this I mean, if my project is open source and someone is taking my code and making some modification, they need to also make that project as open source. Okay, they can't just make it into another closed source project. If you take my code which is open source, you should also make your code open source. That's what the whole idea of GPL. I think someone had a question. Let us have a look. And apply submission also specificate someone who yeah, if someone forks your code and they can actually change the MIT license into a different license, which kind of like restricts it. And what do you mean by persecute? Are you trying to prosecute someone who clones your repo? Actually, there are no legal binding or that case that if someone clones your project, you can prosecute them. But it is not ethical. So if someone clones your repo, they're going to have their reputation on the ground. So there was an event that happened a few months ago. I don't remember the YouTuber's name. I think he's a machine learning guy. I don't remember his name. Yeah, he kind of kept cloning everyone's project, changed the Git history, called it his own code. Yeah, Siraj Driver. Yep, correct. So he cloned a lot of people's repo without forcing it, didn't give any attribution, and his reputation was hugely blown up. No one kind of prosecuted him or took him to court. But the idea is that it is not a good practice and it's not ethical. Any other questions that you guys have around license? Cool. If you guys have, feel free to put it into chat. Yep. So the next section of this talk is around aftermath of success. Let's say you built a project, it is popular, it's used by a huge amount of people. Now, what does it look after success, right? So you're gonna definitely get a lot of love, right? So these were the comments from my Reddit post. A lot of people were telling that I loved it, I'm gonna share it with people. Even someone told I love you. I'm yet to find that person, but someone told I love you. So huge amount of love from the community. But at the same time, you might get hate. So this is the comment from the same post. Someone said, like, made a joke out of me, and all you can do in this point in time is just downvote, forget about them, and move on. Okay. So never always expect love or support from the community. There are always going to be few people who are not going to be that supportive or going to be discouraging. Just move on, keep contributing. That's what I would suggest you guys. And yes, huge responsibility. When you start contributing to open source and when you start creating your own open source project, there's actually a huge responsibility. Since open source is free, it actually adds a huge amount of responsibility when compared to proprietary software. When it comes to free, the chance of lot of people using your project is high. So you are actually held responsible for a lot of people, right? Lot of people. So be very keen and to ensure that you keep your promises, ensure that that you don't break anyone's code or anyone's production. So this happened a few months ago, like in the Rust community, where someone had a web server built on Rust, and the contributor kind of went rogue. He did not like open source contribution anymore, so he kind of took down the repo, which kind of broke production of Netflix, Amazon. He had no idea that Netflix and Amazon was using his project, but few employees from Amazon and Netflix pointed out that their production went down because he took down the repo. So you have no idea that who's using your project, but be sure that you are responsible for your code and you don't abuse it. That it is free, and you will be BDFL. So BDFL stands for Benevolent Dictator for Life. So when you create an open source project, you will be called BDFL. This doesn't mean that you are kind of a dictator. You decide who contributes to the project. No, that doesn't mean that. It means that you will be dictator for the roadmap of the project. So you will be kind of deciding how this project should move forward, how it should actually be in the future. So that's what the rights that you hold, and you will have the final call on what you should do with this project. And yes, this is very important. When you start contributing, make sure that you keep the community healthy, keep big contagious and spread the open source love to everyone. Encourage everyone to get into open source. Everyone should contribute. Everyone should know what is open source. So keep the community healthy and thriving. And the community is the only big power that open source has when compared to proprietary software. If you take Linux, it has a community that none other software can break. Similar, there are a lot of other projects that has such huge community that can be never beaten by any proprietary software. Yep. And finally, I wanted to share a few GitHub profiles that I actually look up to that are actually really inspiring, that you should also check out and follow. The first profile is called James George. He's actually a student. It's very surprising that he's actually a student. He's still in college. He is from Kerala. He has built a project called Maven CLI, which kind of scaffolds Maven stack, that is MongoDB, Express, Vue.js, and Node project for you. And he actually kind of an active open source contributor. He has contributed to Webpack. He has participated in Google Summer of Code. And he's a really great guy that you should follow, right? And the next is Ranshu Yadav. He works in HackerRank, a very humble person, such a great guy. He also has a huge streak in open source contribution. You can always reach out to him. He's very helpful. He has a lot of good projects that beginner friendly that you can contribute to. He's even building a UI library like React called Dummies. Please feel free to check out if that fits your appetite of advanced programming. And then, yep, Aditya Harwal. He's also working in HackerRank. We met when we both were kind of students. He now works in HackerRank. Both of us were from a humble college. Both of us, you can never find out our college on map. So we had such a humble beginning. He had a huge open source contribution that actually paved his way into HackerRank. You can definitely check his projects out. All these projects were the projects that he built when he was a college student, and a lot of his projects are his college projects. So if you are having a college project, feel free to put it onto GitHub, right? And that is going to definitely add value rather than having an empty GitHub profile. Put all your college side projects, mini projects into GitHub, and some people might actually find it useful for their mini project, and not meaning they can kind of plagiarize it. That's not good. They should have a look in for ideas and inspiration. And Vinit Saidov, you guys might have already met him. So he works in Postman. He has a really good set of open source projects, which actually helped him to get into Postman. So definitely check his profile. He's a really, really great guy, humble person. You can always reach out to him. He's going to help you guys if you want. And yeah, Shad Milta, you won't trust me. When Shad Milta came out of college, this is his story, which he told me. He was actually like very much baffled by the community. He was not so good at coding, but he took up the challenge. So he started his open source journey. After leaving college, now he has the design system for React Native, which blew up in Twitter a few months ago. It has around 158, stars. This single open source project, this single React Native design system project, landed him in Hashnode. If you guys are not aware of Hashnode, Hashnode is it's a blogging community, very active community, very similar to Medium, but has a huge amount of followership by developer community. He works there. That's what the open source contribution is what gave him that dream job. Yep, those are the people that I look up to. Hope that wraps it up. Thank you guys for listening. And now I can actually take questions if you guys have any.
Guys, if you have anything to ask to Ameer, you can just ask right now. You can just put it in the chat channel, or if you can request to get unmuted and you can ask him.
Yep. Feel free, guys. There's nothing right or wrong. I can totally understand that you might think few questions doesn't make sense to ask, but feel free, ask it out. I'm not gonna be like I'm gonna prejudge you. I'm not gonna prejudge you. So. And I'm gonna share you guys the PPT. This is gonna remain forever. You can always refer to this deck. It's always gonna remain online.
Anyone out there who wants to ask a question? Ameer, either the audience is very receptive. They got everything what you told.
Thank you.
And so you can do one thing. If you want to reach Ameer, I'll post the tags of where you can reach him on GitHub, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So Ameer, you're fine with giving your social tags. So you can just reach out, Ameer, if you want to ask anything. And Ameer, thank you so much for coming in. I guess, how can we reach him? Okay. So yes, if you have, Ameer, could you just post your links over here in the chat section?
Yep, sure. I will do that right away. So this is my Twitter profile. This is my LinkedIn profile. Oh, sorry, I'm replying privately to someone. To everyone. Yeah, so those are the all platforms that I'm available. You can definitely check it out. And someone asked me on a private chat that like how to choose which project to start contributing to. That's a really good question that I want to answer. The thing is that whenever you look into a project, make sure that the project is active. Okay, so if you want to contribute to projects which are huge like Parcel, Webpack, and things like that, that criteria always is already fixed. and choose communities which have Slack channels. Like for example, I can show you guys that. Uh, so if you go to Bootstrap GitHub profile, there would be a section called community in which you can actually reach out. You can join their official Slack channel or other social media. You can ask questions on Twitter. So if there is no section for this, don't actually kind of spend your time on this, because there's no, you most probably are not going to get any help. So always look for that, and always look for a project which has contribution guides. For example, if you give me a minute. So if you actually look into the Bootstrap project, there will be something called contributing. You can look into the contribution guideline to understand how the project is structured, how you should contribute, what are the jargons that are used in the project, and things like that. Okay, so that, I hope that answers your question. And what are the views on total beginners who are new to development and approach this path? Okay, so what I would suggest is that learn development, learn JavaScript or whatever actually interests you. Okay, do some small projects, push it to GitHub. Okay, and then slowly, once you get comfortable with development, then move on to contributing to open source software. Because while contributing to open source software, you definitely need some idea on how you should write code on a particular language, on a particular technical stack. Someone asked, do you need to be active on several social media sites in order to gain heat on GitHub? No, not at all. So if you see my profile, I have around 104 followers, and all these followers I gained organically through GitHub. I didn't post any of my link on Twitter. And to be honest, follower count actually never means anything in GitHub, right? So I have few people who are like have thousands of followers but have done nothing in GitHub. Okay, in GitHub, what actually means is the contribution that you have done and the project that you have in your GitHub profile, and not the follower count. So don't fall for the follower counts like other platforms like Instagram or Twitter. GitHub is purely for your open source contribution and your open source project, right? Hope that answers your question.
Anything else, guys, you want to ask Ameer? Or I hope Ameer has given all his platforms. You can reach out to Ameer on these platforms. Thank you so much, Ameer, for taking the time out and telling people how to start open source and how to actually make a name on it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming, audience. And let's see. Let's hope you come into the next webinars as well, which will be around the same topics and same things. So thank you so much, guys, and see you in the next webinar. Thank you so much, Ameer, for coming.
Thanks, Prakash, for having. Hope you guys all enjoy my talk, and hopefully it was useful. Thank you, guys.